Hey, it's Jay, and today we're talking about the 3D Model tab in Autodesk Inventor.
So there's a lot of stuff here, and a good bit of it is either not super useful or useful enough that we are going to go over it in a whole separate video. But don't worry, we go over most of the major stuff, and there's really good documentation online if you look around for anything that you need to use that we don't go over here. So the first thing way on the left is Start 2D Sketch. This is the basis of 3D modeling as you start in 2D. And we have an entire video going over how to do this. So just go watch that video if you want to really learn how to do it. But basically how it works is you click it, you pick a plane. You can also do this on a face of a part. And then you just have your whole sketch tab that gives you all those options. So yeah, there's that, and we do not need that sketch anymore, so I can just go ahead. If it'll let me right click it, I can just go ahead and delete it. That's gone. So, and then next over we have the create subdivision. So this is basically going, okay, you have your 2D sketch, now we need to make it 3D. So if I actually kept that rectangle, it'd been nice. I'm gonna get that rectangle back, and you can just right click and edit whatever, and we can just be like, yep, that right there is a rectangle, and that's your 2D sketch. So now we have 2D and we have all of our create stuff, so we can go extrude. Basically lets you take it and just make it three-dimensional by giving it a third dimension. This is great for like rectangles and just making things like chunky. You can see it just takes it straight out. We can also put it backwards or just in the middle, and we can make it asymmetric, but that's kind of weird. So yeah, that's how extrude works. Extrude's pretty straightforward. And the one thing we should go over, all of these tools that you're going to see here have an extremely similar like menu. You've got your input geometry, which is just takes all the stuff it needs to generate the feature. So for example, in this one, it needs a profile to be extruded, and it needs the plane needs to be where it extrudes from. And underneath that, we'll have behavior, which changes stuff about the feature. For example, like we go forward, we go backward, we go in the middle, we go both ways, and other things they'll change how far it stops or where it stops. And then, yeah, and there's more things, but we don't have them here. So actually, do we? No, we don't. So we're gonna do that in the next one. Do we have it here? No, we don't. Okay, basically, in some of these, you'll have an output tab. Here, I should probably force an output tab to be a thing that exists. So if we do this, then we start a 2D sketch on the side of it, and then we make another rectangle like here, just kind of arbitrarily. Now we've got that. And then you'll notice if I go to extrude it, we have output, which is options. So we can like join them, we can cut this away from it, or we can have just the overlap be left. And it can also just be a second solid if you want it to. But that's really all that it does. So okay, then now we're going back to our other tools, because that's what this video is really about. That's just a thing. It's very important that you understand your options for making these features. So after extrude, we have revolve, which does probably what you think it does. Is I can take my profile and I need an axis. So let's go with like, I don't know. I need to select any of these. Sometimes you have to click there, and it'll just turn the profile around whatever axis, and we can go both directions. And that's much more useful if I go like 90 degrees only, and now we're only going this far, so I can go like that, I can go like that, and it's just options. And we would have the same output if we were doing this on another thing. So those are your two big ones that you're going to use all the time when going from 2D to 3D. Some of these you'll use, like Loft will allow you smoothly join two shapes, like you see how it goes from a square to a circle here. It'll just create a transition, and it's pretty nice. Like, yeah, and it'll explain it. And sweep will sweep a sketch along a different, like, other path. It's pretty much how it works. It's pretty nice. And a lot of these are less useful, but they still are. They'll come in handy occasionally, but not often enough that we're really gonna go over them. So then after that we have modify subdivision. A lot of these are super. Okay, we're gonna go back to making this a solid because now we need to modify it. And these work different ways. It'll allow you to take a pre-existing solid and modify it, which makes sense. So we have hole, which is very, very fancy. Basically, it'll allow you to make a hole of any kind, like to do anything. You can have it be tapped. If you click tapped, you have to put in whatever kind of tap you want. And you'd be like, oh, I want to go through everything just to the first thing both ways. I want an angled point, and you can change everything about it. But I'm just going to kind of like, maybe if it lets me, I would like to put a hole in here. Yeah, I had it huge from another thing, but I can just make it go 0.125. And now we can just put an 1/8 inch hole in this. And it's pretty great. That's how hole works. And then fillet and chamfer are very similar. They're pretty much like what they are in Sketch. So you can just like click on it and modify your radius, and you can just round off corners, and you have lots of options here. Like I can make this face rounded off, I think. I don't really know how this bit works. I really only use corner fillet, and that's really all you're gonna need. And chamfer works very similarly. You can just, it like cuts a bit off. You can also do other options, like you can see it's pretty clear. Like we're taking, if there was a triangle, we're taking this triangle off. Like you can see we have distance and distance. This is the distance we're giving it, and it's taking distance and distance and just deleting that bit. We can also give it one distance and an angle, or we can give it two different distances, and it's pretty cool and very versatile. Shell is also useful sometimes. It allows you to just create a hollow version of a pre-existing part. Like you can see that is hollow now, and if I remove this face, I gotta click. If I remove this face, now it's hollow all the way through, and it's just a cutout. And it's easier to do that than it is usually to just cut an actual bit out. And a circle, or not a circle, a rectangle is a pretty bad example of this, but what if you wanted to hollow out a circle? Then it's a pain. You can also, we don't have a cylindrical face, but that'll just like thread it. Very, very, what a big surprise. But like you can select a cylindrical face and it'll give you all the options for threading, and then you can just thread it. See, this is a good diagram of how it works. This is the greatest thing. So you just be like, yep, this is how I want to thread it, and then it's like, yep, there's a cylinder, we're gonna thread it. And combine just allows you to join them or cut them. Basically do the options you're given by the output options with like extrude and revolve and the create, but just do that with pre-existing things, and it's pretty nice. And delete face just deletes a face. What a surprise. Yay, now there's one less face there. This is still kind of not that useful because this is technically infinitely thin, but that's fine. Okay, and then next up, we aren't talking about shape generators because they're just weird. We have work features, and this is like, if you remember from geometry, you can effectively construct work features. Like I can make a plane offset to this plane by 1 inch, and now I can work off of that plane. Like I can start sketching on it, and I can do everything like that. It just gives you all of the options that you're ever gonna need to create a plane. Like I can go 3 points, and I can be like, yeah, I want a plane that goes through 1, 2, and 3, and then there's a plane going through points 1, 2, and 3, and it just lets you construct planes to work on in the future. And axis and point work very similarly. You just have all of your options to construct an axis or a line, and we have all of our options on where we want to put our point. So that's how they work. They're really useful, especially point. I like to use point a lot because I could put it in specific places, then I can pull it into my sketches with project geometry, and I can use it to make my sketches line up nicely. So that's always good. And UCS is really weird and we don't worry about it. You'll use these three, and I don't know if you're ever going to use those. Okay, pattern is pretty fancy. You saw the mirror pattern used in the 3D in the intermediate part design video. So you give it, let's show you. You give it like geometry and the plane to mirror it across, and it will mirror the plane. And it's pretty fancy, and that's just how it works. You can also have the mirror plane be like the XY plane. You can have it be any of the planes that work from the actual file. We also have linear patterns, which just, like if I go feature, sure. Basically, this is my feature. I need a direction, so let's give it this. And I want 2 of these. I want 8 of these, and I want them to be spaced out every 1 inch. And that's just how it works. I can also, like if I wanted to, be like, yeah, I want this direction as well, but I want these every ½ inch. And you can just duplicate them and make a grid, and it's really, really nice. You can also, I think, yeah, go for how far you actually want it to go instead of just how many you want. And this is very fancy, especially when you're trying to do CAD for the very specific like VersaFrame poles that we use a lot, because you'll notice there is a bunch of holes in them. So you can just like make 1 point, and then you can use a rectangular pattern to zoom it across the whole pole, and then you can use the hole tool, and it'll do them in batches, and it's really cool, and just punch a whole bunch of holes in there. And it takes about 2 minutes as opposed to it taking you an hour and a half to do it manually. We also have circular patterns. What's this? Oh, that's a separate thing. Circular patterns. I don't think I'm gonna have an actual circle, but like if this is my feature, please tell me I don't need to give a circle. No, I don't. Sweet. If I want 6 of them over 360 degrees, it'll place a new one every 60 degrees. And it's really nice, and I can do the same thing you can here. I can go to, I want 6 over 270, and then it'll make 6 of them over 270. And what if I only want 4 of them? And it'll do those every 90 degrees, and it's really fancy and really nice, especially if you're trying to CAD gears manually, which sometimes are a thing, but if you need something really specific, but more often there are better ways to do that, such as just downloading it. And then we have sketch-driven patterns, which just allows for solid to be placed at every point as defined in a sketch. Because you'll notice, like, when we sketch, we have a point tool somewhere, point right there. And you can just be sketching and have like point, and then you'd be like, yep, sketch-driven pattern, put a rectangle at every single one of those points, or a sphere or something. And yeah, so everything else we have here is either not super useful or covered in a separate video. So at least I don't think it's useful. You might, but people are different, and people do things in different ways. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.